Coming up on First at 4, the remains of a missing Southern Kentucky woman are found 5 years later. And the widow of soccer journalist Grant Wahl talks about her husband's death for the first time.
Plus, another soggy December day continues throughout the mountains. Details on when we finally dry out and cool down coming up as Mountain News First at 4 starts right now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, it's certainly been a soggy Wednesday across the mountains, and we're not done with the rain yet. So far, no flooding issues, though. Our First Alert Weather Day continues as we check in with meteorologist Evan Hatter. Evan.
That's right, Steve. We continue to watch as we see that rain continuing throughout the area. The good news, like we said, no big issues so far. Nobody's really hit an inch of rain yet, but we've got quite a bit of rain to go. There's a look outside from several of our locations. You see across portions of London Corbin Airport, it's wet on the tarmac with overcast skies above. Here in Hazard, a few degrees cooler, same thing in Pikeville, and we are overcast with showers as well. Temperatures throughout the region continue to be in the middle 50s further to the south and west. We're in the low 50s across much of the Kentucky River and Big Sandy River valleys. How about middle and upper 40s across southwest Virginia, where there's a wind advisory in effect for Wise County and the city of Norton. All throughout the region, yep, it remains soggy. Plenty of light to moderate rain across the Big Sandy into the northern part of southwest Virginia. Back to the south and the west, watching some more potentially heavy rain at times there, sneaking into southern McCreary County, southern Campbell County as well. And then watching a gap in the coverage across portions of the Kentucky River Valley, places like Irvin, Stanton, Clay City, Beattyville, getting in on a bit of a break for the moment, but we're not done. Putting everything in motion, you see we're kind of building up that next round of rain, pushing in from the south and west and expanding the view out further. We're not done yet. We've still got that front still across parts of Missouri, so we're not done for the rain by a long shot. 49 tonight with those showers continuing really through much of the evening. Details, though, on when we dry out and it starts to feel a little more like, let's say, the second week of December in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thanks. The search is over for a missing child out of West Virginia. An Amber Alert was issued for 4-year-old Mila Karff. Police say she was kidnapped by her mother, 37-year-old Shauna Karff. Winchester, Kentucky police say officers arrested Shauna Karff this afternoon following a brief pursuit on Interstate 64 in Clark County. Police say she struck multiple police vehicles during the pursuit. No officers were injured and Mila was recovered safely. Shauna Karff is facing several charges, including wanton endangerment and assault. A nearly 5-year-old missing persons case in southern Kentucky has been solved. It comes as some kids stumbled across a skull in southern Tennessee near Chattanooga. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on what they found and how it's bringing some answers to a Whitley County family.
This is a case that dates all the way back to February of 2018. 37-year-old Laura Anderson was with her mother, got out of the car and left. That was the last time her family says they saw the 37-year-old woman. And now, almost 5 years later, some kids playing in a strip mine in Cleveland, Tennessee, found her remains.
I think they had actually stumbled across the skull and I think maybe passed it around and then became scared and discarded it into an adjacent pond.
Tennessee authorities drained the pond and found other remains, which then were ID'd as Anderson. It put an end to a long search for her, which began in February 2018 when Anderson got out of her mother's car and ran off. Just over a year later, in 2019, Joseph Bauer made a jailhouse confession that he helped hide her body. He was convicted of a crime before the evidence was even found. That evidence would not come until this past December 4th, when the kids stumbled across the missing woman's remains, 149 miles away.
That we're glad she's here, that we found her, but we're trying to figure out how she got up in that area when it was supposed to have been in Whitley County area.
Despite Joseph Bauer facing the facilitation to commit murder charges and already being sentenced for that, police say this case is far from over. They say they need to find who actually caused Laura Anderson's death. They say that her remains were so old that may not be possible to determine the cause and manner of death, but they say they do have persons of interest. In Whitley County, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
The Whitley County prosecutor says Anderson's remains were identified so quickly because of the good work of former Williamsburg Police Chief Wayne Byrd in investigating the case. Primary Care Centers of Eastern Kentucky is making sure students in Perry, Knott, and Leslie counties have presents under the tree this year. For many years, the primary care staff has been buying gifts for kids at various schools, supporting parents who need additional help making sure their kids have gifts to open on Christmas.
We partner with the resource center directors. They actually take the individual children that, they know there's the need. They asked what their wants are and then mostly what their need is as well.
Ignite says this year they bought more than 700 gifts for kids in Leslie, Perry, and Knott counties. Kentucky State Police Post 9 packed the Pikeville Walmart with troopers today to help pack presents under Christmas trees for kids this year. The annual Shop with a Trooper event brought kids from all around the Post 9 area for a day of food, fun, and festive fellowship, sending them home with toys, food, clothes, and more. Trooper Michael Coleman says the event takes a lot of time and help from the community, but it's always worth the work.
All the fundraising, all the donations throughout the year are all leading up to this event at the end of the year. And I know I speak for myself and everyone that came out here today. We just had a great time with these kids. We were able to come out, go shopping with them. Just to see the smiles on their faces makes it all worthwhile.
You can see some of those smiling faces yourself as we give you a closer look at this year's event coming up tonight at 6. The wife of soccer journalist Grant Wahl says her husband died of natural causes while he was in Qatar covering the World Cup. CBS's Jared Hill has more.
To know that he was so loved by so many people, it makes me feel a little bit less alone.
Dr. Celine Gounder says tributes pouring in about her late husband, Grant Wahl, are bringing her comfort.
Feels like, it's like a warm hug when you really need it.
Wahl was a CBS Sports contributor who had written about soccer for Sports Illustrated for more than 2 decades. He died on Friday while covering the World Cup in Qatar. On CBS Mornings, his wife, CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder, dispelled rumors that foul play was involved.
He had an autopsy done here in New York by the New York City Medical Examiner's Office, and it showed that he had an aortic aneurysm that ruptured.
Which means what? Okay.
So aorta, that's the big blood vessel that comes out of your heart. It's just one of these things that had been likely brewing for years, and for whatever reason, it happened at this point in time.
She says she wants people to remember her husband for his kindness, generosity, and commitment to social justice.
I think that's another aspect of soccer that was really important to him, that, promoting the women's game, the recent statements he had made about LGBT rights, that was Grant. That was Grant.
A legacy that won't soon be forgotten. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Dr. Gounder also revealed that she was the one who proposed to her husband more than 2 decades ago. Today marks 2 years since the first COVID-19 vaccination shot was injected into an arm. Since then, nearly 660 million doses have been distributed, and a new study says it has made a big difference. The Commonwealth Fund and Yale School of Public Health issued a report saying roughly 3.2 million COVID-19 deaths were prevented because of the vaccine. The findings, based on their data from December 2020 through November of this year, also says nearly 19 million COVID hospitalizations were staved off by the shots. While some health officials admit the overall effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccines have faded because of variants, they say they still provide proper protection from the virus. Coming up on First at 4, future generations are banned from being able to buy cigarettes in New Zealand as that country passes a wide-ranging tobacco law.
Plus, wet weather continues for the remainder of our Wednesday, but what about a wintry whiplash? Details coming up as I promised to stop talking like that.
Finding